Welcome in, Believe in Commanders podcast, part of the Believe Network, and we are brought to you by FanDuel, along with Anthony Armstrong. In the middle, Donna Hopkins, good enough to join us. Of course, Donna, many, many years on the Tony McGee Show and in the D.C. market covering this Washington Redskins football Commanders franchise. How you doing, Donna? Good to have you.
Good, Scott and Anthony. It's funny that you said that. With all the names, I think I've been through them all.
Yeah, that's right. We've all been through all the names at this point. So it's good to have you. This camp is obviously, it's funny. I was talking to some people a couple of days ago. They're like, that's kind of a boring camp. Really not a whole lot going on here. Because last year had the drama with Terry, and then boom, this Stefon Diggs story comes flying in. What was your reaction when you saw it? And was this something as you were watching throughout camp thinking, I think they better think about getting some help here at receiver?
Well, it's funny that you said that because I was talking to someone at practice when I was watching the receivers go through their drills and then their, defensive stands with the DBs. I said, hey, you know what? If they're planning on getting Stefon Diggs, they better hurry up and get him before somebody else snatches him up. But my thing is, I like the wide receiver room. I think more so they got him because of the depth that they needed at that position, because Treylon Burt has looked pretty good in there, but he had a foot injury, and he was out one day and then he was back. So I think that they're looking at, we've got to have some bodies in there that if Terry goes down, if Burks goes down, we need another guy to come up in here and be able to, immediately have an impact. So I think that was more of the thinking with the Commanders, because I think they like the room. Luke McCaffrey has stepped up and looked good in the role that they have him in. De'Ami Brown has really looked good. They like him, of what he can do. And they were catching balls on the DBs yesterday. So that the wide receivers room did look good. But I think that adding Diggs, and that was one guy that I had on my list if they were going to sign somebody. He's a proven guy. Had over 1,000 and some yards. And this is funny. Coach Quinn and Adam Peters said in our press conference with them before training camp started, they said that whoever we may look at, they've got to been in camp and they have to been working out. That was not Brandon Ayuk. That would have been a Stefon Diggs, because he had been putting in the work and he had previously played for New England. So it does not surprise me they went that route. When I thought about that, I said, remember what Coach Quinn and Adam Peters said just before camp? And I wasn't surprised.
Yeah, I love the signing with Stefon, and I was looking at those it was like a minute 40 worth of one-on-ones, and I was telling Scott, I had two pages of notes of just watching those like 8 or 12 reps that it was. I'm going to put it on wax and drop it up over there on X. So at Rated Armstrong, if you need to know where to follow and watch it. I could see that there was a huge gap between Terry McLaurin and then the next receiver. I think we knew that coming into camp, and over this first week, I would assume and I would surmise that AP and DQ wanted to see somebody make that big jump. Who was really going to separate themselves from the clump of receivers in that tier 2 range for me? That is a Luke McCaffrey, a Jalen Lane. And Luke makes plays. He does it kind of awkwardly, but he comes down with the football, and you can't get away from that. Jalen Lane's got some punt return ability as well. So receiver room is going to be interesting, especially adding Stefon. I love the attention that's going to take away from Terry McLaurin. Still staying on this offensive side, the pads are on. That means they get to hit a little bit. I want to talk about the running back room. I think this is something where they needed the pads on to really showcase what they do the best. Who's looked good so far just in those first couple of days with pads?
Let me tell you, that's an area that I've been paying attention to a lot, that wide receiver room and the running back room. And let me tell you, Bill Croskey-Merritt has really stepped up and elevated his game. I asked Coach Quinn about him on Wednesday's practice. I said, hey, when you look at Bill, what do you see in him in these first stages of training camp as far as him being able to catch the ball out of the backfield? Because that's one thing that he needed to really add to his game, because Rashad White already had that in his toolbox. So Bill has really looked solid. He put on about 7 pounds of muscle, and you can tell that in his running style. He's really looks like he's taking that next level step up. And it's a good competition between him and Rashad White, because Bill's looking like, man, I ain't gonna let you try to take my spot. And Rashad saying, I'm coming in here trying to get the spot. So I think it's going to be they're going to be utilized between each other, those two. Katron Allen is the other guy. He reminds you of Chris Rodriguez, is what Coach Lynn told me. So he, to me, has played a great role too, because he's going to be your goal line guy. And then the other guys, Ford and some of the other ones in there, they really look good. I mean, you could tell that is an area, because one thing about practice is they said they're going to run the ball, and they've basically been running the ball a lot in practice, and with that offensive line that's leading the way, that I like also. But I like the running back room, and I think that both Bill and Rashad White has really shown that you don't need that bell horn that everybody thinks that you need, because I think that you've got what you need to take this team forward as far as Bill and Rashad White, because Rashad can catch the ball out the backfield. And I mean, I saw him snag one during their warm up, and the coach even said, man, I like how you went up and got that, because he was stretched. Hey, Anthony, he looked like a wide receiver snatching that ball. And then as far as Bill, he's been pretty impressive catching the ball out of the backfield too. And he said, look, I can do this. But he's gotten better in doing that this year. And you can tell that he's worked on this in the offseason. So I'm not concerned about the running back room. It's going to be interesting to see who makes this team in the end beyond those two guys. And Jeremy McNichols, I didn't even throw him in there.
Right, I was just going to say. Yeah.
This is a guy that can play both ways, because Coach Lynn said, look, one thing about Jeremy McNichols, he can play all the positions as far as the running back room. And then he's a good special teams guy in returning punts. And they did say this tidbit also that Coach Quinn said on Wednesday when I asked him the question about Bill. He said that they're going to, look at him as kick returner also. So they're adding a little bit more to his room, his resume this season.
Yeah, that's exciting. I was going to say, Anthony and I've been talking about this. I mean, guys like Jerome Ford, he'd make a lot of rosters. I mean, McNichols has been a hard guy to cut here for the last couple of years, and you know what you're getting from him. And as you mentioned, the team's part of it. So it's going to be interesting to see where the numbers is at 4. If they keep 4, and who's on the odd man out would be somebody that probably be coveted pretty quickly. We're here talking to Donna Hopkins on the Believe Me Commanders podcast, brought to you by FanDuel, part of the Believe Network. Please like, comment, and follow. We do appreciate that. You mentioned pads being on, and Anthony and I had been talking about this for a while. It feels kind of sad when you're out there when the non-padded days are happening for like the offensive and defensive linemen, because it's like they're there, they're participating, but they can't really do what they want to do. So since those couple practices are now in with the pads that you've seen, what is your impressions of this offensive line? Obviously, the offensive line's dealt with some injuries here in the early going, with Nick Allegretti being sidelined for a few weeks here. But how do you think they have meshed together? Because it seems like this is a group that, if all parts are equal and healthy, with the center position lockdown, could be a huge strength for this football team.
It's funny that you say that, Scott, because Coach Quinn talked about that. The pads being put on is for the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen, where you can really see what what you got. I think that this is one of the solid areas. Last year, to me, it was the key area. The strength of this team was the offensive line. And again, it's the strength again. It's funny that you asked me about the offensive line, because I got a chance to talk to Brandon Coleman this past week. And this is a guy that's going up to compete to try to get his starting role back from Chris Paul. And he said, look, we're great friends. What Laremy Tunsil has done for this offensive line in developing the younger guys, Connolly, you can tell the difference in his body. He went and trained with Laremy during the offseason alongside Brandon Coleman. And Brandon Coleman told me about what that looks like as far as with Laremy, down in Alabama where it's stone hot. And so it's going to prepare you. He said that he's coming back in the best shape. That was Coleman, by working out with Laremy, and just what Laremy has taught him about the process. And so you talk about the center position. I got to talk to Matt, early during the camp, and then that same day Allegretti went down, and I was like, whoa. And then they brought in another guy. So if you can get that center position shored up and the depth there that you need there, every other piece of the offensive line is in place. And I mean, they're going to be one of the better offensive line, because going against that defense over the other side is really, really making them much better, because the defense, Jones is throwing so much at that offense and the offensive line that it's going to make them better. So, I mean, they the first couple of days, it was defense. The last 2 days, it was offense. And I love the fact that the first day of pads, it was the competition between the offensive line going one-on-one with the defensive line. And that was pretty sweet to watch, as those matchups got a little chippy, but it was great because, you know, when you go one-on-one, you're going to be beat. But Laremy Tunsil took somebody and just threw them out the way like he did in New England last year. It was like, get off of me. And I mean, it didn't even look like no effort. So again, if they can stay healthy and they got depth because they can move people around, that's what you like about the offensive line. It's not like in past years you had no depth. You've got that now. And you got some competition, like I said, between Chris Paul and Coleman. And either way it goes, I even saw Coleman practice the center position a little bit last, I think Wednesday in practice. I was paying attention. I was like, okay, maybe they're going to move him there. Just try him out there. And this is the time to do that.
Yes, it is. This is the time. And these are times for players that are where you get opportunities that you didn't necessarily come into expecting, right? Julian Good-Jones didn't necessarily expect to get so many first-team reps. With Matt Goldman was the thing he was going to come in and fight for something. Chris Paul, Brandon Coleman. So many guys are putting their name in the hat, Scott. They're trying to showcase what they can do and find a better way to make this team. It's kind of like ZipRecruiter. You know, they have some technology that are able to help use this to, as a person that's looking for a job, Donna, you could actually type in what makes you qualified and why you're interested in this job, which is pretty cool. So if we're talking about that center position, all these young guys are going around saying, look, I can play guard, I can play center, I can play right guard, I can snap it, you name it, I got it. It's going to be good for this team. And like I said, ZipRecruiter has a new feature that shows you the most interested and qualified candidates first. I feel like they used it for the receiver position. Me and Scott talked about it last time.
That's right. They typed it in and Stefon Diggs' name popped up.
Yeah, they said one guy said, I'm friends with the QB. The other guy said, I've been working out. I'm off social media. I'm handling my business. I'm ready to get to work.
And he zipped up his mouth. He zipped up his mouth.
And I'm not under contract with another team. Yeah.
And exactly. So he was ready to go. Right. It put the qualified candidate up there quickly to tell you in your own words why you're interested in the job. But look, try ZipRecruiter for me and meet the great candidates who are going to go the extra step for your job. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free today at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Donna, let me ask you, who has separated themselves at training camp on the defensive side? We've heard a lot about the safeties. You've heard a lot of people gushing about Sonny Styles. But if you had to pick just one person, all 3 levels, any level of the defense, who's been the star of the defense in your eyes?
Sonny has stepped up and really looked good, but I want to shout out to Jeremy Reeves, because Jeremy Reeves in this defense has excelled. He's positioned himself to be a starter. He's basically been special teams over the year, got to play a little bit more so of safety last year, but this year he's in there starting, making noise. You got Quan, got Will Harris, but I think that Jeremy Reeves has really basically got people's attention in what he looks like in this Durante Jones defense, and I think it's making a lot of people really better. But Odafe Oweh, to me, up front, Chasen, Leo Chanel, those guys that they added to this defense that I've yelled out, and I know that Sonny Styles is a guy to me that really you can see him and why they bought him here and the speed and getting there. I mean, he was in people's face. But I like to look more so of some of the free agents that they bought in here that's making the defensive line much better. And Oweh, to me, really makes them look so much better. And Kinlaw, with the additions that they have over there with him, and we haven't even talked about Trey being back or Wise or Armstrong yet. But the guys that got in there, I think Kinlaw, it makes him better by having some of those bodies there. Charles Omenihu. Those are the guys that I would think that to me has been standing out of making this team better up front. And like I said, in the back, bringing Douglas here was a good move. But I would say that the area that when I look at the safety position and look at how they're utilizing Jeremy Reeves right now, I would say that to me has got my attention a lot more than any of the other players, because I think he could end up starting in that position along, with Quan and Will Harris and everything. But he's been the one that I've kind of like saying, whoa, look at this new life for Jeremy Reeves.
We are here on the Bleeping Commanders podcast, part of the Bleep Network, brought to you by FanDuel. Donna Hopkins from the Jonah McGee Show, longtime Redskins, Washington Football Commanders reporter, good enough to join myself, Scott Jackson, and Anthony Armstrong, number 13 over there. Please like, comment, and follow. Our mutual friend, Doc Walker, was on here a few weeks ago, and he referred to last year's defense as the AARP defense. And the things you're saying are so true. I mean, just being there on Saturday, like the speed of this group is at a different level. Nick Cross, the Terp, who they bring in from the Colts, has been a big part of that as well. But you just see all the different possibilities, and without getting too in the weeds here on the different looks you've seen. I mean, it just feels like Durante Jones has got like this mad scientist about it, like different things they can do, different personnel packages, sometimes just two corners, sometimes, there's three, like just kind of changing it up quite a bit. It just feels like from where they were last year to where they are this year, it's just light years in front of it. Obviously, they still got to go out there and communicate on Sundays and obviously make plays. But it does seem like the money was well spent on that side of the ball, because they spent a good chunk of it there, obviously.
Hey, Scott, they told me in talking to Quan Martin and talking to some of the other defensive players, it allows everybody to eat on defense. And I like what Jones said early on with Mikey Sainristil. He said, look, not just learning your position, but learning the whole defense. And that's what he's told them, is that it's not about your position, it's about you understanding the whole defense, which is going to make this team so much better. And that's what you're seeing. And that's the reason why I think this defense and what Jones is throwing at the other side of the ball, the offense, is going to make the offense, because Jayden is seeing some things that he hasn't seen before because of the mixed up on defense and the things that Jones is throwing there. And then Blau is throwing some things at the defense, because I kind of like the schemes that this offensive minded guy has in Blau, and I like Jones stuff. So we're starting to see the little pieces of really what that offense is going to look like and what this defense is going to look like. And I'm like, whoa, if no more, it's pretty impressive. But I'm about that person that you got to show me when it counts against the Dolphins coming up in that inter squad scrimmage, and then against, the Baltimore Ravens at the end. That is where you're going to tell all the pieces. But on both sides of the ball, they have some great individuals to be able to tell a little bit now what it's going to look like.
I like it, man. When you're hearing so much about, the inter squad practices, and they put more emphasis on those, because they have one less preseason game. I love how Scott called them -3 and -2.
Yeah, -1. -3, -2, -1.
I like how that worked into the season. But, I have a soft spot for the undrafted free agents, the lesser known guys. So with that said, knowing that these inter squad practices are going to be very, very important for some guys, who are some younger players, lesser known guys that are on your list, maybe that you're saying Donna Hopkins has her eye on this player to make some noise for the Commanders?
Yeah, Fred Davis is a cornerback, and I talked to him, undrafted free agent, came in here and told me day one, look, I'm going to make this team. And he said that the Commanders like him. I haven't seen a lot of him because they're always adding to the cornerback room. He's a young guy, but I've been keeping my eye on him to see if no more than he end up on the practice squad and everything. Right. He's confident that he's done enough to make this team. And, Antonio Williams, the wide receiver there, I'm looking for him to take that next. And I know everybody knows his name, but again, they're looking for big things out of him. And in talking to him, he's like an old soul. I got to talk to him on Wednesday, and I was like, old soul that has his head on right in going through the process and learning and picking up. And I'm wanting to look at him to see him take that next level as far as, moving forward. So I've saw some things. He's shifty, he's slippery. I mean, all the things that you like to see is just getting the experience and everything. And I know this is not an old name either, but Jaden Lane is the other guy that I really want to see excel, because I saw some good catches from him. But I think the one that nobody knows about is that Fred Davis, in talking to him early during the OTAs, the rookie mini camps. I really want to see, as he said, I'm making this team. I'm confident in me. And so I want to see in the end if that be the case. Because look, they do need depth in the cornerback room. That's an area to me that has really still needs to show itself.
Yeah.
All right.
Akilo Witherspoon did go on the retired list.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Let me just tell you this. I was so shocked by that, because this is a guy that was playing well, had a good camp up until the point that he decided to say, I'm retiring.
No.
He was having one of the better camps of some of the veteran, cornerbacks. Right. So I was like, when I woke up the next day and they said he had retired, and then they had to get another one in, I was like, what happened there?
They said he gone, and I'll say, number one, congratulations on a successful career. Congrats on making it to the NFL. All of that, you got to give yourself some praise and pat yourself on the back for that. I heard a couple of stories about players retiring and kind of when they knew. Like one, I think Brian Arakpo, y'all remember him?
Oh yeah,
when he was in Tennessee. He said he went out for like an OTA or an off-season workout, and he was just like, what the hell I'm doing this for, man? I'm good. I don't want to do it anymore. And he just said, I'm good. And then the other one, I think it was Richard Sherman. He was talking about how he was going against some young receiver, and that receiver gave him the blues, and he was like, man, I think this might be my last season. So sometimes it goes like that, man. You get a couple of bad matchups, Donna, and you're like, you know what? This ain't
Anthony,
it.
He didn't have bad matchup. He had a good day that day before he retired.
That's
he went out on top, man.
He was like, all right, I'm good. He didn't make that Arakpo money either, so hopefully he's got a good plan after football.
Hey, you would have to drag me out. You would have to get the wagon, get the bulldozer, and just pull me out of there.
Well, before we let Donna go, we haven't talked about the quarterback, which is probably illegal on a Commanders podcast. But I kind of feel like we've taken Jayden Daniels for granted because he's been playing well in this camp, and each day he's been stacking them. But what have you seen, Donna? And again, does it look like what everybody's saying? I mean, at least Saturday when I was out there, it looked like he was a guy who's pretty comfortable under center and getting the ball out of his hands quickly. Have you continued to see that throughout the week?
Let me tell you, that defense has made Jayden so much better by what they're throwing at him in a new offensive scheme and everything. Coach Quinn said, I asked Coach Quinn about Jayden. He said, look, he's further ahead than I really thought he was going to be in this. And Jayden is so confident in who he is as an individual that he's going to put the work in. Before they took the break for training camp, and he said that, look, we're all still trying to learn this. I'm even trying to learn this. So he came back. First 2 days for the offense overall, it was shaky. But after that, he was hitting strikes. And I mean, he's hitting. I saw Luke McCaffrey get one of his catches, went up and got it. He's placing the ball where it needs to be. And I think that him being behind the center, getting comfortable with what that looks like, you're starting to kind of like see that now. Reading the defense, and Jones's defense throwing everything at him. So that to me shows his growth and able to pick that up, the changing things at the line. I really like how Jayden has grasped this offense so far. And we're still young within training camp still. Yeah. And so I expect him to get even better. But I do like number 5 and what I'm seeing from him and how he's taking command of this team to say, it's my team. And, and you can tell that by how he's conducting himself as far as that leadership there and how he's zipping the ball and really understanding that. I like, quarterback JT, basically the quarterback coach. I like all of them, as far as what they're doing to bring him along. So, again, DJ. DJ,
Doug's son. Yeah, Doug's son, yeah.
DJ. I'm thinking like my initials is DJ, so how can I forget that? But really, Jayden to me has really stepped up to that next step, and that's scary.
Right.
Everybody is not mentioning Jayden enough, and I'm saying that is scary by what I'm seeing from him now.
Yeah, we had the producer from Hard Knocks on here a few weeks ago, and he's like, I got to tell you, and this guy's a fan of this franchise. He grew up with the franchise. Tim Rumpf, he said, he's boring. He goes home, he does football, he goes to football, he goes, and it's what you want from your quarterback. He just keeps it, he's got the one thing on his mind. So I think that's pretty cool.
Rashad White said he's the best quarterback ever. That's Rashad White, his buddy. But he's saying that, hey, what you're seeing from Jayden is Jayden.
Yeah.
He hasn't never changed.
It's
and
him,
I
right?
like that.
Yeah, he's not trying to be something he's not. And I love it. Yeah, we've seen some people be inauthentic in the past year in that position, and he's a guy who's not that. So we saw you out there on Saturday, and boy, they had a bunch of celebrities out there. John Riggins, the great Daryl Green. I mean, you couldn't ask for the two biggest alumni to be there at the same time. But Daryl Green, seeing him back out and active, I know you got to talk to him for a while. What's D Green thinking about this franchise and what he's going to be doing next?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, you had the big hitters out there, but Daryl had, I thought Daryl was going to put the pads on at one time because he was looking so closely and standing on the edge. But he said that he likes what he's seeing in this team as far as what they did in the offseason in bringing together the defense a little bit more, getting the people that they need to make this team better. He said that this team is committed. He said he's not saying that because he's friends with the organization, because he said, I'm for real. I call it like it is. And he said that what he sees with the pieces they put on defense, he likes that as far as the offense, new defensive coordinator, offensive coordinators, all the pieces are falling into place, but you can only tell when the realness comes, he said. You can put all this together, but what is it going to look like when you get on the field? So again, he's a class organization that are trying to do the right things and moving this team forward and giving them a chance also to win, after those 5 wins last year. So he's pretty confident in the way Josh Harris and the organization is moving this team forward. So now it's just up to the players. As the players tell me, it's up to us now because we've been given the keys. We just got to go and drive the vehicle.
They got to put that baby on 495, Scott. They got to go right around the Beltway.
That's right. Hopefully no traffic.
W's, limited traffic. Got to make it happen. Appreciate you, Donna, for joining us.
Thank you, Donna.
Pro Football Focus, Tony McGee Show. Long time.
Appreciate you all.
Covering Washington, all the organization, all the names. She's done it.
That's right.
One of the best in the business. And I have to say, the group chat I'm in, they were like, oh, let me know when you talk to Donna. Love having Donna. Love hearing her. So you definitely got some fans out there that appreciate
that.
This episode with you.
Awesome.
So make sure y'all give her a follow on X.
See you next week, Donna.
Donna Hopkins _
All right, Donna Hopkins, thank you so much. For Anthony Armstrong, Scott Jackson's Believe in Commanders, part of the Believe Network, and we are brought to you by FanDuel. Thanks for joining us this episode. Please like, comment, and follow. And until next time.